The competitive 40K network presents Art of War.
Art of War.
Strategy and tactics. Discussions with the best players on the planet. Now your host, Nick Nanavati.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Art of War 40K podcast. I'm your host, Nick Nanavati, and this week we have a very special episode for you. Usually we go through and interview tournament winners and retroactively figure out exactly how they won their tournament and what makes it all tick. This week, we're not doing any of that. There's not going to be a part two. This is all part one, free to watch just for all of you wonderful fans out there. We're going to be taking all of the participants of the annual Art of War Streamhouse RTT and talk to each and every one of them, get a quick rundown of their list, how it operates, and how they plan to tackle this behemoth of a tournament. For those of you who don't know what the Streamhouse RTT is, let me illuminate that for you. Basically, we get all your different Art of War coaches from around the country, and we gather them together for a long RTT, a battle of the best, a bash of the coaches, to see who among us is king among kings. This is a friendly rivalry competition, but we are all bringing our A game, and we are trying our damnedest to win this thing. So you've got Richard Seagler playing Tau Empire, John Lennon on the brand new Emperor's Children Army, Quinton Johnson showing up that glow up on the sisters, bringing out those ladies, Jack Harpster running the brand new shiny Adeptus Custodes detachment, Sasha Edel, one of our newest teammates, who's also an absolute monster. He's got Chaos Space Marines and the Creations of Bile. Kyle McCord, another new addition. He's got Dark Angel Gladius. Yeah, that didn't go anywhere. And we've got Russell Tassen featuring the brand new Shadow Legion detachment, Mike Muzzeni on the 18 Death Shroud Death Guard, and, of course, Brian Jones, who just won the Cherokee Open, featuring the exact same night list that won that Super Major, bringing in the pain. Finally, we've got yours truly, and I'm switching it up for this one. I'm bringing back my good old Aeldari, but this time I'm running Spirit Conclave, a detachment that literally has no coverage out there. So this is going to be a pretty exciting tournament. We already have our round one pairing, so this is going to be fun. We're going to talk to each and every guest and talk about how they design their list and how they feel going to their first matchup and how they expect to break down and win this tournament. If you want to watch, you totally can. You can watch live on our YouTube channel March 26th, Wednesday, March 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That's when the first game of this RTT is going to premiere, and we're going to stream to you every single round over the next few weeks. So literally don't go anywhere. Subscribe to the Art of War 40K YouTube channel. It's actually free, and that way you'll get notified every single time we release a video, including all these Streamhouse RTT videos. And you can hop into our Discord server by becoming a patron, support the show, and you can talk to all of the other people who are super excited about this tournament and the results that come to follow. All right, folks, without further ado, let's just get right on into it. So for our first guest here, we've got none other than the robot Richard Seagler himself, featuring, of course, his good old Tau people. Siegs, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm excited to be playing Tau because me playing Tau at a Streamhouse RTT is classic. I've played Tau 3 or 4 different times, and I've always done well with them.
That's true. That's true. You've actually won the title yourself before.
Yep, with Tau.
With Tau.
Farsight Enclaves, baby.
So are you saying you're here to repeat it?
Definitely.
Oh, definitely.
Nobody's expecting the Tau. Nobody is prepared for the Tau. And I've been playing bad detachments for you guys on stream, and now I'm bringing out the bad boy.
Oh, interesting. So tell me about this list. What do you got here?
Yeah, so I'm playing Monka. This is my favorite detachment. It's one that I brought to DreamHack Dallas, and I played extensively when the Codex came out, but I've been trying to show off the other options more recently. So here's the list. We got the Warlord, who is going to be an Ethereal. He is going to inconsistently give me back an additional CP, but he's a caddy for +1 OC on an objective I pick at the start of the game. That way, in the late game, when I stand on objectives with like a Piranha or a Ghost Keel, it's a lot more annoying to contest it away. So I got 2 Ghost Keels here. They are literally going to jam up on touch objectives immediately and say, come interact with my army that is a lot stronger in the first 3 turns. And if you don't, I'm going to get a huge primary lead. Then I have 3 Hammerheads, all with Ion, Seeker Missiles, Accelerator Burst Cannons. These guys are absolutely dominant, especially in Monka, where you can get easy access to lethal hits. They put out a ton of volume, great into elite infantry, great into tanks, awesome all around. 1 Kroot Carnivore Squad to sticky my home objective and hold my backfield. 2 Pathfinder teams, one with the Recon drone to infiltrate and scout, and then the other one with the Grav drone to hold my expansion with the -2 to charge. They also are great for guiding. 2 solo piranhas, they are there to also die alongside the ghost keels in the early game because the best stratagem in this detachment is if my opponent kills one of my units, I get full rerolls to hit against them for the rest of the game. So I can literally I could charge piranhas into something and be like, oh, you have Magnus behind a wall? Cool. Here's a piranha. Go ahead and kill it. Full rerolls to hit if you ever step out. Get wrecked. 3 Riptide battle suits. They're once again awesome in this detachment because they survive. There's a -1 damage stratagem in this detachment that makes them extremely difficult to deal with, and they love lethal hits. 3 stealth suit teams for the rerolls, and then 1 Vespid squad for mission play and threatening to get in their backfield, so they have to screen the whole game.
Wow. So throwing it back to that, you've got 3 hammerheads, 3 riptides for your long-range firepower core. That's got all the heat you need. And then from there, it's like a lot of MSU skirmishers. We got crude stealth suits, piranhas, ghost keels. What's like your overall strategy with all this?
My strategy is that Monka is the strongest in the first 3 turns, and that is because they gain access to assault on all their weapons, and if they're guided, they get lethal hits. And then there's a stratagem, 1 CP, pick 2 of my units, 1 enemy unit, I get +1 AP against it. Those rules only interact with the Tau army in the first 3 battle rounds. So I am encouraged to get my opponent to commit their best units in the first 3 turns when my damage is absolutely outrageous. And so I am going to very aggressively touch objectives and say, hey, here's 2 ghost keels, one of them's +1 OC very likely. Go ahead and you can contest the objectives, no problem. If you put high OC on there, I kill those, you're losing your action units. Or you could go ahead and try and kill the ghost keels and put your damage units within 12, and then I murder them in the first 3 turns. And then 3 riptides, walk on objectives late game, and control the game from there. So I'm very much playing a more aggressive Tau style. I'm getting a big lead early, or my opponent's army is getting into a firefight with my army when it's at its strongest.
Yeah. And what do you get in the first 3 battle rounds?
You get that assault on all my weapons, lethal hits if I'm guided, and access to a +1 AP stratagem.
Oh my God. So you're going to flood the objectives with trash early, either score a bunch of points or force commitment out of the opponent, and then when they commit real units to stop you from scoring a bunch of points, then you're going to just lay the Mont-Ka murder on them.
Absolutely. And if they do kill one of my units, I'll get full rerolls to hit back into that unit, which is massive for a Tau army. You remember Tetras? This is Tetras, but whenever I want it, not for 1 unit.
It's pretty saucy, Siegs, I'm not going to lie. So going through the tournament, we've got a lot of strong contenders here and all that. Who are you think would be your toughest competition?
Probably Sisters. Tau have had a difficult time into Sisters for a while. However, Quinton is not running Bringers of Flame. Bringers of Flame did Monka for the most part, but better because it had just a better army rule, better stratagems, etc. It got nerfed, and there are other detachments available. But I would still say I didn't bring a ton of like anti-infantry, like basic infantry, T3 infantry. I can do it with Pathfinders and whatnot, but 30 Sacrosands is not going to be the easiest for my army to kill. Whereas if you give me any 3 wound bodies that are, like something like Terminators, whatnot, I am going to absolutely shred them with my army.
There's a lot of elite infantry in this tournament.
There's a lot of elite infantry, and I have flat 3, flat 4 damage all over the place.
I think that's going to serve you super well. Now, I know you mentioned you are playing Tau at this tournament because it's kind of iconic at this point. You've literally won this event with Tau in the past. Did you think Tau was your strongest option, or is this more of a legacy pick?
So, that's a great question. I have plenty of options. Most of my armies are pretty solid right now. Like Leagues of Votann is in a great spot right now. Admech, I've been playing extensively. I did top 8 at Worlds with them. However, I felt that Tau would be a surprise pick that people weren't expecting. And with armies like Custodes at the top, with 3 wound infantry all over the place, you have armies, CSM with Possessed floating around. That's a bunch of 3 wound bodies, Chosen. There's a lot of strong armies in that A tier, S tier category that just really have units that I need to be able to kill efficiently. And unfortunately for Admech, it can be a little bit difficult to finish off those bodies. So that was why I moved away from them. And then I felt like Tau was a natural counter to these type of armies, especially Monka, because they want to stat check the Tau. They want to get out there, get their points, start racking up, advancing and charging into me. And I'm like, cool, go ahead and do it because I'm going to put heinous amounts of firepower into you. So I think it's a strong counter meta pick, and that's why I picked it.
Yeah, it's a great answer. There is a lot of elite infantry running around the top tables, and your army is actually horrifying for some elite infantry. Which segues us nicely into your round 1 matchup. You're paired up into Mike Muzzeni's Death Guard, featuring 18 Death Shrouds and a bunch of MSU vehicles. How are you feeling about this one?
I'm feeling great. I could honestly, if I had to pick my matchup, I probably would have picked Mike. This or the Dark Angels are the two that I really want to go into, and it's funny because most of my competition doesn't really want to play those armies. Death Guard is a heinous army for combat armies to deal with, or armies that want to get aggressive into it and close. And then Dark Angels, same thing. They have Deathwing Knights, they got a Land Raider Redeemer. Most armies are like, I really don't want to deal with any of that. And I'm like, give it to me, because both of those armies have very little screening. Both of those armies have very expensive elite infantry that I'm amazing at killing. And they're very susceptible to fast move blocks. One of the stratagems I didn't mention is flat 6 advance. So you would try and rely on rapid ingress, and all of a sudden I'm just going to jet a Piranha into the spot you wanted to go and say, cool, 9 inches away from that.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I think you're going to definitely have maybe not the most challenging round one, but, Mike's an amazing player. Death Guard, nothing to sleep on. I know you've gotten a matchup advantage, but it has to translate on the table, so we'll see.
I mean, I could literally whiff and do spectacular things with my dice, and it would be bad. Or he can make every invuln. He does have a -1 to hit strat. However, my goal is going to be to proc the full rerolls on him as soon as possible onto those Death Shroud units. And for the rest of the game, I will efficiently kill them even without lethals.
Awesome. Well, good luck to you, Mr. Seeks, throughout this tournament. I hope we don't play, but if we do, maybe not as much.
Wait, do you have 3-wound infantry?
Just a few.
All right. Thanks for having me, Mr. Nick. Hope everybody enjoys the Streamhouse RTT, and for the greater good, for the Tauva.
All right. For our next matchup, we've got Russell Tassen versus John Lennon. Chaos Demons versus Emperor's Children. Russell, you got the demon half of this detachment. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I got I've been playing a lot of Demonic Incursion and getting to play Shadow Legions. I'm really excited. There's a lot of new stuff in that list.
Dude, I'm so jealous. I love demons. I wanted to play demons, but I had to give it up to you as the War Master over here. So now you've got the Shadow Legion, you got your Chaos Demons, and your Chaos Space Marines are coming together. Tell me about what list you took.
All right. I took a list where I've got Bellicor leading off as my Warlord with a whole new host of upgrades. He's got more wounds. He's got a better save. He's got more attacks. He's got all of his abilities are upgraded. It's really exciting. He fills a lot of roles besides just the utility role that he used to fill. 2 Bloodthirsters. One's got the 9-inch scout, and then the other one's got the one where if I kill something and I'm not in engagement range, I can leave the board and I can cycle. And there's a lot of options to cycle that way. And in addition to stratagems, I have 2 Ren Masters on Blood Thrones. They give you an additional strength, AP, and damage. So you can get the Flesh Hounds or the Bloodthirsters up to like a 4 damage sweep. It's amazing. 1 unit of Nerdlings to either help protect my scout from other armies that have infiltrate, or maybe get a cheeky -1 to hit somewhere in melee. Then I got Plague Bearers to do home objective sticky and then leave the board and find somewhere else to protect something like an expansion objective. They're a nice, tough unit to do something like that. Beasts of Nurgle, which got Scout 6 inches, which is amazing early game plays.
Demons just getting glow ups all over the place.
Just glow ups all over. And then the best glow ups is I have 2 units of Flesh Hounds. They're 75 points. They get up and down for free, and they benefit from the Blood Thrones, the advance and charge that Khorne gets. I mean, all in all, I would say that they got to glow up to the best skirmish unit in the game.
Yeah, they're pretty crazy now.
Then I have a Chaos Lord that gives me a free stratagem, and it also gives me the ability when I use the stratagem to leave the board with 1 demon and 1 Chaos Space Marine to do it for free, since I'm targeting the unit that he's going to be with, which will be some Legionnaires. And they're good on their own. They can, and like I said, late game, having a Lord to pop a 3 damage thing to do late game trades is amazing. And then 1 unit of Cultists to up and down as well. Having a battle line unit that's only 50 points available for demons, that's what's up.
Nice.
And being able to deliver them with Deep Strike.
Dude, demons getting cultists is like such a godsend. So talk to me about this army from like a strategic standpoint. You got Bellicor, you got double Bloodthirster, which is definitely something I have not seen much. Then you've got like a lot of small skirmish units between the Flesh Hounds, the Flamers, the Beast of Nurgle. You got some Plague Bears for the back, Cultists for the back. And of course, you've got the Lord Legionnaire squad. How does this all come together? What's your plan?
So one of the big things I like is the scout on the Bloodthirster. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to use it. You definitely can threaten the early game. So in other words, like say you're playing somebody like Brian who's got Canis. You know, he might want to deploy Canis mid-board where he can come through a wall and affect the game early. But if there's a Bloodthirster that can scout 9, move 12, advance and charge, maybe you want to deploy Canis back. And if I can threaten you enough to keep you out of the game, then the Bloodthirster's already done his job. And you can't just deploy your stuff right there because that Bloodthirster will take it. So, and then that leaves me options to kind of threaten my own expansion objective without giving up too much because you put your big pieces back. That's the hope anyway, and then be able to cycle another Bloodthirster and get good trades without actually trading.
Yeah. And I think we missed the Ren Masters in this list. What are they doing?
So the Ren Masters are a big buff piece where they add out the strength, the AP, and the damage to like the Bloodthirsters and the Fleshhounds. But also in their own right, they can fight. They get to reroll wounds against monsters and character units. So they can also get the damage buff from themselves. So just one buff from them puts them up to 4 damage. A second one from the other Blood Throne is 5 damage, and all they've got to do is see a unit within 18 inches to add that buff out. It's really good utility with this Shadow Legion.
Yeah. And are you trying to stat check people with double Bloodthirster Bellicor? Be like, here, you can't kill all 3 of these in one turn. They are going to kill you. Or are you trying to play like a KG back and forth game?
I think it's going to depend on my opponent. If I have an opponent that can really shoot me off the board, I might pay a little KG. But if I get the option to put the pressure on somebody and stat check them, I absolutely will.
Awesome. Exciting to see. So your first round is going to be a spicy one. You are playing against John's Emperor's Children. Do you have any experience versus this faction?
Against Emperor's Children, I've studied it, but I have not got to play against it yet.
Oh, man, that's going to be a trip. How are you feeling about this matchup?
I'm worried about the Noise Marines and the Blast Masters. So, like, that's a lot of 3 damage shots. If I can get past those 3 damage shots and mitigate some of the melee and hurt him back in melee, because we're gonna fight there. But if I can get past those 3 damage shots, I think I've got a chance. But John is an amazing player, so
I mean, this whole tournament's full of amazing players.
Exactly. Right. So I feel like I have a good matchup into Emperor's Children.
Yeah. The one nice thing for you in that one is that Blast Masters are only strength 10 and all of your monsters are toughness 11. They are just going to wound on 5s with no rerolls.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And that's another glow up on Bellicor. He went from toughness 10 to 11. So that's a nice break point.
So what made you bring Shadow Legion to this tournament? I know it's new and exciting and all that, but did you think it was also a competitive pick for this environment?
I do feel like it is a competitive pick for this environment because it really gives you the options to cover the gap against shooting armies with the advance and charge. And also it gives you there's so many up and down options. It gives you so much utility play to still play that kind of demonic incursion up and down. But because having the ability to rapid ingress and do it for free and have some utility from CSM, I do think there's a lot more utility that you get than you had with demonic incursion.
Awesome. So now you have the list, the field, the whole thing. Who are you most afraid of playing in the tournament?
The 2 that I was most scared of playing is Richard and Quinton, because they both got amazing shooting and the ability to get past that stat check pretty quick. Like Quinton with his sisters and Mournval, I mean, he could kill one of those big guys in Overwatch with that unit.
That's true. That's really true.
So yeah, those are the 2 that I was most scared of.
Awesome. What are you most excited for throughout this whole weekend?
The opportunity to play this many amazing players in one weekend and get to hang out with you guys. Dude, so no matter what, I already feel like a winner.
That's awesome, Russell. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, now that we've heard from Russell, let's hear from the other man of the hour, Mr. John Lennon. John, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm really excited for this year's Streamhouse RTT.
Awesome. I am too. This is going to be exciting times. John, you're playing an army which is brand new, not even actually released yet, but we allowed it. The Emperor's Children. Now, this army is spiky, flashy, and fun, but is it good? That's the real question. How are you feeling?
I certainly think so. I think Emperor's Children are really fast, really fun, and anytime power armor moves that many inches at a time, there's some sauce there. I think that the army is going to end up being a lot better once it's developed than people initially anticipated when that release came out. And I'm looking to prove it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people on Emperor's Children rules release date basically read the codex and were very underwhelmed across the board. And I think you were too, but you've been putting the work in anyway and really mastering this faction, which has really been impressive to see. And your results have been quite impressive. Do you think you're going to be able to replicate that success at the Streamhouse RTT?
Yeah, I think so. I believe that it's a bit hard to play, but it rewards the reps. I've been putting in the time.
Awesome. So what is the actual list you're taking to the tournament?
Absolutely. So I am playing the Coterie of the Conceited detachment, just so that I can, pledge some kills to Slaanesh and buff up my army. My list has 1 Cacophonist, then 3 Lord Exultants, just some leaders for my infantry. I also have Lucius the Eternal and 2 Winged Demon Princes. Each of those princes has a relic, one of which is going to let me flip a dice to a 6 with Unholy Fortune. The other, Eternal Servitude, lets me stand up when I die if I pass the leadership test, and I'm always brave in front of the guns. After that, I have 2 squads of Tormentors, 3 squads of Infractors, 3 Rhinos, 3 squads of Noise Marines, and a squad of Chaos Spawn.
Very compact, double prints, bunch of dudes riding around in tanks. What's the plan with this army? I always look at Emperor's Children list and I'm like, what is it even doing? There's nothing here.
Go fast and then hit people. This is a really fast army, and I'm looking to use my speed to make sure that I'm not setting up a fair fight. Emperor's Children are relatively expensive for the privilege of being a 2-wound T4 model with a 3-up armor save. And so I'm not looking to get into a clean Napoleonic shootout with people. Instead, I'm looking to go really fast, kill a resource, tag something, and then use that, maybe some move blocking, some tagging, some angle cutting, some speed to make sure that they're not hitting me back clean. The squad I send in, and that one's probably dead. But if that squad could move block, maybe it'll also protect the Noise Marines that got out. Or maybe I'll tag something that can't fall back and act, shoot that with Noise Marines, and then it can't respond. It just has to deal with the thing it's in combo with. And I can buy myself a little time, kill some enemies, build up my pack to Slaanesh, and by the end of the game, my last few squads are going to be unstoppable.
So pretty much like an aggro pressure type of build where you're sacrificing squads for momentum and tempo and trying to really limit your opponent's responses into you while you stage up and layer those next waves at them.
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome. Very exciting to see. I'm really curious to see how you do in this tournament. What do you think about your Emperor's Children versus the overall field?
I think that Emperor's Children are going to have some polarizing matchups overall. For this field, I think there's plenty of things I can play, but anything that is too tough has me a little bit scared. What I'm most worried about is that I wave my hands, go really fast, pull off some tricks, punch someone in the jaw, and then my hand breaks. If that happens, I'm going to be in a really bad time. So anything that's super durable, I'm a little bit nervous about.
So something like Mike Muzeni's Death Guard, perhaps?
Yeah, or maybe even some Deathwing Knights.
Yeah, those also mess you up, I suppose. Your first match is in Russell and his Chaos Demons, and he's running that new Shadow Legion detachment with a Bellicor double Bloodthirster combo with a bunch of other things. How are you feeling about this one?
It should be interesting. We both hit very hard in combat. I am hoping that me having transports and I think being a little bit faster on the bulk of my units, maybe not as fast as like one individual Bloodthirster that's inventing and charging, but faster than my chaff is faster than his chaff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that means that I get to remove a lot of his cheaper elements and he has to commit his big things right into the teeth of my army. Now, that Bloodthirster could totally come kill a squad of Infractors, probably even the Lord Exultant that's attached too. But if there's a Bloodthirster in front of my army, I do think I'm going to be able to knock him down.
One of the challenges to Emperor's Children, from my understanding, is that they have a limited capacity of hitting those harder targets. Like Blastmasters do great work, Princes do some mortals, you have Lords with Lance, but there's not that much high strength, good damage attacks coming out of your army. How do you plan on dealing with this much beef?
Generally, when there's a couple big targets like this, my goal is to not kill all of it. It's to kill one side of it. So if those 3 monsters stay together, well, that's probably not that many primary points being scored, and I'm going to try to go somewhere else. But if they spread out, I'm probably going to concentrate my force, try to knock out one of them, some guns, a grenade, a tank shock, maybe some impact mortals from a demon prince, finish that up in combat. I can easily knock out any one of these monsters, even though I don't think I can handle all 3 at the same time. Hopefully, I don't have to handle all 3 at the same time. They don't fall back in charge. Maybe I can pin them in combat. Maybe I can just be far away from them and say, hey, your Bloodthirster's on an objective by itself. If you want to leave, you're going to score less primary.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's a really sound plan you have there. Now, I know Emperor's Children are your newest love affair with 40K. Is that the main reason why you brought them? You're enjoying them, you want to play them? Or do you think this was actually your strongest option to take to this tournament?
I don't think that Emperor's Children are quite as good as my Ultramarines or probably my Astra Militarum, but I really enjoy the new element of Emperor's Children, and I really want to master this army. It's been challenging to play, but it's been rewarding so far, so I want to keep going. I already think I have a good understanding of my Ultramarines. I might win some games, I might lose some games, but I think I know where they're at. Emperor's Children, though, I'm learning. And anytime I'm learning with Warhammer, I'm having a great time.
Dude, I love that. That's a great mantra. And I think it's very, very novel and new and exciting. And I think that may even play to your advantage, right? Because this is a Shark Tank of an event. We have some of the world's best players playing here at the Streamhouse RTT. But not all of them have played against your Emperor's Children or Emperor's Children at all. Do you think that an experience gap is going to lead to some advantage gain for you?
Absolutely, yes. I've found historically when I play against, great players, which is pretty much the only thing that's in front of me right now, it actually really helps if you've got the experience gap in a matchup. If I have, 20, 30 reps with Emperor's Children and someone's playing me on rep 2 and their first rep wasn't into my Emperor's Children, so maybe their opponent played a little differently than I play it, I might be able to catch them off guard. I know you've seen that yourself firsthand, where first rep in Emperor's Children can be a little bit jarring if you're not ready for it.
It sure can. 24 possessed jarring. Awesome, John. What are you most excited for this tournament?
I am most excited that I get to play a bunch of games with Emperor's Children. I love that I have no control over what I'm going to play, so it's not like I'm just picking up a practice game and being like, ooh, maybe not Chaos Knights. I'm not ready for that yet. Nope, I have to play what I have to play. And I'm not going to play against someone who built their list thinking about Emperor's Children. I didn't build my list thinking about their Death Guard. I love that it simulates the tournament scene a little bit, where you show up, you get the pairing you get on the table you get, and there is no mitigating factors. You just play the game.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm really excited to see it. I think it's going to be a great test to see what Emperor's Children can really do in the hands of an experienced general. And I think this tournament's going to be super awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show, John.
Absolutely.
So next to matchup, we've got Quinton Johnson. Quinton, you have been an Aeldari boy for the last few months, and recently you decided to YOLO switch it up to Sisters. What's that about?
So a few things. One, part of it was just kind of internal. I was an Eldar boy, as you've been saying, but honestly, I've just been playing so much Eldar that I kind of just wanted a little bit of a break. I also noticed that Eldar can struggle with a few of the things in the meta right now, and so I went with Sisters, which no one has a lot of experience with, and I think that unfamiliarity is going to give me an edge in the Streamhouse RTT.
That's awesome. What meta challenges do you think Eldar were facing that Sisters solve?
So I think that Eldar can have a problem getting pushed, and there's a lot of things where there's like more elite infantry in today's meta. There's a lot of possessed, a bunch of custodians that are coming out, orcs, and Eldar can struggle sometimes with 3-winged infantry, especially if you're taking Inari, where Ozerman and Dark Reapers don't shine as well. You can't take Ozerman at all. And Sisters have access to Castigators, which are really good at killing 3-winged infantry.
That's super true. So why don't you break down the Sisters list that you actually took to the Streamhouse RTT?
So I'm playing Champions of Faith, which is the new Grotmus detachment. It basically is going to give me some ancillary buffs to damage on combat, and then it's going to give me +1 OC in my Saxons, which is really big. I have Aestra Thurga, an Agatha Dolan, 2 Canonesses, and a Hospitaller, and then Morphin Fall. 1 unit of 10 Battle Sisters, and I've given them all Flamers. 2 Immolators with Multi-Meltas, 3 Castigators with the Castigator autocannons, 3 units of 10 Celestin Sacrosants with Maces, 1 unit of 10 Dominions with also Flamers, and then a squad of Paragon Warsuits with Multi-Meltas and Stormbolters.
Awesome. So kind of classic bones to the Sisters army with the Paragons, the triple Castigators, and the Immolators. But then you wildly diverge from common Sisters meta stuff with 30 Sacrosants. What is the strategy with this army?
So the fact is that Sisters have gotten a lot of nerfs, but the core fundamental Castigator machine has not changed, right? That 3 tanks that ignore cover and get stacking AP still stings like a bee. It will hurt and you will notice it. And the Volgons are there to kind of supplement that damage and kill anything with a really big armor save, like a Land Raider or something like that. But the problem with Sisters sometimes is you need to make sure that machine is activating continuously. 3 Castigators will table your opponent in several turns, but it doesn't table your opponent in one. And the goal of the Sacrosants is to like lock their shields together and be a shield wall that can bully in the middle, that can kill stuff that runs at me, that can screen, that can move block, to keep the Castigators and the Volgons shooting for 5 straight turns.
And I know this detachment in particular really buffs your Sacrosants. What specifically do the Sacrosants get that makes you want to take 30 of them?
So the Sacrosants went down 20 points. So they're now 130 points for 10. This detachment gives them +1 leadership, +1 movement, +1 weapon skill, +1 OC, access to sustained or lethal. So they're going to be sustained and lethal because the maces are inherently lethal. And then it's going to give them +1 strength and AP.
Very nice. So pretty combat capable units. They're also -1 to wound when a character joins them just natively. So they've got a little bit of durability, especially with those 4 pinballs. A great in-between to stop your opponent from just getting into combat in short range with all your vehicles.
There's a stratagem for pick 2 units of Sacrosants and they get -1 to hit. So they're -1 to hit, -1 to wound, which is the point that people will go and expecting to kill 10 and they'll kill like 4.
Yeah. And you're pretty light on stuff. Not to say you have 0, but you're running like minimal Sisters, minimal Dominions, just 2 Immolators, no Seraphim or Zephyrim. How are you feeling about your mission play?
So that is one of the weaker points of this list. There's a little bit more stuff than is inherently obvious in the list. So there are 4 characters, but only 3 units that want the characters, and that was very intentional because I want to be able to mix and match. If I'm playing like World Eaters, they have a lot of really big combat activations that I want to have Canonesses in my Sackerson, so I hit harder. If I'm playing something like Richard's Tau, where he has a lot of activation but nothing super devastating, then maybe I want the Hospitaller so I can heal back later. But that's going to give me a free character as trash. And then the Immolators are going to split the two 10-man Dominions and Battle Sisters in half, which is going to give me a little bit more trash. So I'm actually going to have 3 or 4 units to play the Midfield Witch, which is not impossible. It's enough to make it work. And then also the Saxons are actually not that expensive. So if they have to go die to do an action, it's bad, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Q. So we've got our round 1 pairings right off the bat, and you have a very interesting one. You're playing against Kyle McCord and his Dark Angels. Talk to me about how you're feeling there.
I'm feeling okay. So Kyle and I have played this matchup before, and I've won it every time we've played. I think that I'm not playing Bringers, and I have a lot less Miracle Dice, which is definitely going to suffer. But Kyle doesn't have that many units in his army, and I think I have enough damage to get through it all. The Volgons are going to help a lot here, because if he wants to push the Land Raider up, if he wants to push me with Ballistas, the Volgons can walk out, dome the Land Raider and shooting, charge and kill a Ballistas. And then the Castigators can combine fire to kill stuff. He has Deathwing Knights and Inner Circling Companions, which are really going to be annoying for me, but the Sacristans are going to do their job really well here. They're not really going to kill them, but I can throw them out like a shield to absorb his heavy infantry for 1 turn, which is going to give me time to kill it with my Castigators and Volgons.
Yeah, definitely. I think that match is going to be a tough one for both of you, and I'm really excited to see how exactly that plays out. Now, overall, Sisters are a bit of a dark horse pick, Quinton, and I know you mentioned that it's a little bit of a meta call and you've been overplaying Eldar a lot. How do you feel about your Sisters now that you've seen everyone else's factions and your chances versus the field?
I am feeling, I would say, okay about them. There are a lot of armies in here that I really didn't want to play with my Eldar. For example, Death Guard and Custodes are just not great for me. But I think Sisters with 3 Castigators have a lot of damage 3. It's going to be a lot more effective for me there. I think I have a better shot into John's Emperor's Children because I'm going to be a lot less resistant to just getting run down in the way that Ynnari army can. I think I am happy that I swapped Champions of Faith over Ynnari.
Who are you most afraid of to play with your Champions of Faith?
I really got to say Siegs. He's the one army here that can just cold outshoot me. And I really do not want to be on the receiving end of one of those Tau shooting phases. So if I do play him, I'm going to hope that we get a heavier board and that I can manipulate my Sacristans to, deny his primary and things like that.
It's super fascinating. When I asked the same question to Richard earlier in this episode, Richard said he was most afraid of playing you.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the answer for that?
He says he struggles versus Sisters, like Tau struggles versus Sisters, army to army.
We'll have to see what happens there.
We really will. And you get to see what happens, folks, because we're streaming this whole tournament for you. So don't go anywhere. Subscribe to the Art of War 40K YouTube channel. Quinton, how you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. I have not done super well in the past Streamhouse RTTs, but this is my year.
This is your year?
This is my year.
Awesome.
I'm going to win it.
I'm excited to see it. All right, next up on our list, we've got Kyle McCord. Kyle, how you doing?
I'm great, Nick, and very glad to be here in Florida with you guys.
I'm so glad to have you here in Florida with us. It's been a long time since we've had you on the podcast.
It has been a minute, not since I had that crazy Imperial plus Grey Knights list.
Yeah, this was a while back.
A long time ago.
But now you're playing Dark Angels in the Streamhouse RTT. What has happened since then? What's happened to you?
Jack transformed me. I was working with Jack on some coaching, and he got me into Templars, and from the Templars, it was an addictive drug that pulled me down into Caliban.
Wow. It sounds like you've really been into the depths.
I have, truly.
I love it. I love it. So talk to me about your list for the Streamhouse RT. What'd you bring in?
Yeah. So what I have is Azrael, who is going to keep feeding me CP. He's going to be with 6 Inner Circle companions who are going to be running around killing anything that gets in their way. I've got 10 Deathwing Knights. That is kind of the poster boy for Dark Angels. 2 units of 5, smashing people with maces, hitting people with dev wounds, and then just not falling over. I got a combi lieutenant running around, bouncing here and there. Unit of intercessors. I like Ballista so much, I took 3 of them. I got a Land Raider Redeemer. I've got 2 Invader ATVs. They're just quick idiots to run around and hold points, steal things. And then if I need something bigger, I got an Outrider squad to run around with chainswords. And I got a Storm Speeder Thunderstrike. It shoots, it fights, and most of all, it's got a lot of 2-ups.
Looks like a really nice Pretty mean and nasty balanced Archangel Gladius here. You got 2 Deathwing Knight squads, the Inner Circle Companions with Azrael, a Land Raider Redeemer, and Triple Ballistas. That's so much armor and beef.
It is. That is that. And Nick, you're dead right. My goal here was to give my opponent so many problems that they can't deal with all of them all at once. And then when they go to deal with one of them, 5 others crop up. And it may not put out the sheer damage that something like Ultramarines does, but what it does do is not fall over.
Yeah, no, it just keeps on coming and hitting you, and the attrition score is so awesome for you. Now, you've gotten a few points nerfed since, like, Dark Angels were really haymaking back in, like, the end of last year. Since then, Deathwing Knights have gone up, now Ballistas have gone up. What is drawing you to this specific brand of Space Marines over all your other options?
Sure, and I've tested Ultramarines a lot in the team's environment, and look, they're super strong. There's lots of virtues to play in Blood Angels. I don't think there's a brand of Space Marines that you can be putting on the table right now that wouldn't be a competitive option. But what I'll say is I've practiced with Deathwing Knights a lot. I really think the people are sleeping on the Redeemer. And so even with the points increases, you can still put a lot of very tough vehicles, very tough armored guys, and then just some very kill units on the board. Between that and just having played Gladius for a long time, I've gotten to see what the army can do. It's very flexible. It has a lot of opportunity to grab points and then refuse to give up holding objectives. It doesn't back down. And that's what I'm really going for as I'm thinking about round 1.
Awesome. Speaking of round 1, who do you have on our tournament roster?
Man, I feel like I got one of the toughest matchups. I have Quinton Johnson.
Q Money?
Q Money. And Q had a very similar idea, man. He's got tons of Sacrosants running around. They're -1 to wound. They got 4-up invulns. And he's got 30 of them. 30 of them, Nick. And I got to try and deal with that while I'm dealing with Castigators, while I'm dealing with Vol. There's nothing in the game Vol can't kill if she wants to. And I'm just getting myself ready for that. It's going to be a really tough game. Quentin's a top tier player. And so I'm going to have to bring the heat.
I actually think this is, in my opinion, the most interesting round 1 matchup. You and Quinton, top players. These are 2 top armies. I think they're pretty evenly matched into each other. Like the way they dynamic into each other is very much just going to be a grind fest.
I love to think that coming into a game, any game, I play, I like to think that maybe I can be, favored with practice and with maybe army comp. I don't know, man. Quinton, I think we're really evenly matched. I think his army's really evenly matched. So it's going to be a grind fest. And you guys can watch this in the war room. It's going to be a heck of a video.
That's right. It's actually going to premiere on our YouTube channel, so you can check it out on the Art of War 40K YouTube channel next Wednesday live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You do not want to miss this banger of a matchup.
Well, I'm excited to see where those Hunter Killer missiles go and see if I can't hit something with some maces.
Dude, that's awesome. Now, what do you think about the field altogether, the rest of the competition? Who do you think has got a real shot to win this?
Oh, no one. I mean, it's only me. No, I'm just teasing. I think that Richard has a heck of a list. He's got some great anti-infantry shooting. I think you are playing some tricksy stuff, Nick Nanavati.
What are you talking about?
I don't want to be shot by no Wraith Lords. I think that Jack playing this new Custodes detachment, you got to tune in for that. Getting to stand back up with Custodes, getting to reload once per game abilities. That's going to be fierce. But to be honest, I think it's anybody's game, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough tournament. We're just going to keep on going with these interviews. Kyle, what are you most excited for this weekend?
Well, it's a blizzard in Iowa, so I'm enjoying some Florida sunshine. But even more than that, one of the things I can say is that when you're around some really top-tier players, you pick up some great habits, you pick up some great ideas. Excited to roundtable about that and just get a chance to play my very best games into some of the top players in the world.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you, Kyle. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
For our next duo, we've got Jack Harpster and Brian Jones. Jack, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing excellent. I cannot wait. Brian is one of my favorite people, and a game with him is always a blast.
Dude, I'm so excited to see this game. Also, you're trying out the brand new shiniest Custodes detachment ever, and holy crap, is it good?
Yeah, I'm super excited for my Custodes. Oh man, it's been a little bit since I've been this excited for Custodes, and I can't wait. I got a Lars Terminators in here. I'm gonna set Canis Rex's Pig Punch. He's gonna be damage 1.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell us, like, top to bottom, what your Custodes list for the Streamhouse RTT actually is?
Absolutely. So I got Big T Trajan. All right, he's back in the list. He hits like a sacks full of hammers. All right, that's what we're working with here. Got 3 Alaris Shield Captains in Terminator armor. Those guys are great with the re-rack, the set all damage to 1 ability, so they become very tough to deal with. One of them has Admona Mortis and an axe. The rest of them one of them has Superior Creation and a spear, and another one has Fierce Conqueror and a spear. Idea here is you kill the unit, but you're not going to kill them. They're very hard to kill, and then they're going to go on to be a persistent threat that I can then follow up on, which is going to be very nasty. I have 4 units of Custodian Guard. One of them has 2 shields. That guy's there to anchor my expansion objective. The rest are there to join Trajan, Draxus, and an Inquisitor. Okay, because they shoot really, really hard, giving them full rerolls to wound, shoot twice, +1 to hit, +1 to wound. They're great. I then have 3 units of 2 Alaris Terminators to go alongside the captains, give them rerolls to wound, give them uppy and downy so I can bring them up and then rapid ingress them later to be a more dynamic threat. And then I have a unit of 5 Prosecutors and 3 units of 4 Witch Seekers. Gave the Prosecutors the extra person just so that they can screen out a little bit more. But the Witch Seekers are great with +1 to wound. Excellent skirmish piece.
Awesome. So basically, you've got 4 bricks of Custodes Guard joined by some Inquisitors and Draxus, and then you've got 3 Alaris Terminator bricks with Shield Captain, and then some just cheap skirmish stuff. This is a big departure from the classic double Caladius 18 Warden builds that we've been seeing. What's the idea here?
So the idea here is that the double Caladius and triple Warden brick build is good. I think it is a solid build, but it's very defensive, and it's also very settled. People know what's in that list. The list is set at this point. And it really wants to ball up and to be very together in its defensiveness. And so that means you don't really benefit that much from Lions of the Emperor, I've found, in that with that army. I think that army honestly would rather go Talons of the Emperor the same way it's been going. I want to try something new. The higher damage output that you can get out of Lions really incentivizes not just melee, although certainly does, but it also incentivizes shooting, because you can give these like low strength weapons that have full rerolls to wound +1 to wound, and all of a sudden, I'm going to try and kill Canis Rex in shooting. Okay, that's my game plan here with all the Guardian Spears that double shoot and +1 to wound and full rerolls to wound. We're going to see how that goes. But the idea here is I can take more units that all do more damage, and then I get the best use out of these enhancements that are really, really good.
Right, and you don't have any Caladius, which I know is a big solve to Custodes' like long-range anti-tank situation. Do you think that's going to be a weakness for you, especially into your round 1 versus Knights?
It could be. It depends on how you play it. So the Caladius are great into Knights at just taking very long angles and picking them off. They're really good here. If I knew I was playing Knights round 1, I probably would have skewed a little bit more towards Caladius. But the other thing is, they have a 3-up armor save. So even when they're in cover, if I can just say, hey, here's a unit of Custodian Guard, with a double tap, it fires 16 shots, that's 14 hits, that's 8 wounds, with full rerolls to wound, +1 to wound. You fail 3 of those, that's 6 damage. I'm going to shoot another unit, you're dead, right? Like, you can solve vehicles as long as they don't have a 2-up and they're in cover. If they have a 2-up and they're in cover, i.e. Kyle McCord's list, then I can't shoot them to death and I have to rely on combat. But I have enough shooting to keep these units honest. They can't just step in the open.
Awesome. So I know you're trying this brand new Custodes detachment, different approach to Custodes 2, being a lot more infantry, brawly, skirmishy, shooty style. Do you think that this was your strongest option for the tournament? Or are you trying this out mostly to get a feel for it, see how you like it, that kind of thing?
I love my Custodes. I really, really love my Custodes. I like a lot of armies. I play a lot of armies. I love Custodes. And what that means is there's no losing for me here. I've only played a couple of practice games with the army. My build could be off base. I probably will know more after the event. But what's the worst thing that happens? I have a baller time. I have a blast. I get to run 3 units of Alars. I haven't run Alars since 9th edition, bro. Like, oh man, I'm super excited to play Alars, put them on the table, put Trajan back on the table, deliver the big beats. I think it's a good army. I could be wrong. But if I'm wrong, I'm having a blast. And if I'm right, I'm having a blast and it's a good army. I do think my best option was Orcs. I think it was everyone's best option. But I didn't want to do that.
There was a gentleman's agreement not to take Orcs here.
Basically.
Unwritten rules.
Yeah. I mean, there were a bunch of people who were trying to get other people to take Orcs. I'm not sure why. I was not one of them. But I just want to play Custodes. And I have a rule, basically, where it's if I'm going to an event, and this is an event, although it's an event with all my homies, if I'm going to an event, I just don't play armies I don't want to play.
Right. I think that's a great rule. So you're round 1, you know it's set in stone. You were playing against Brian Jones and Imperial Knights. How do you feel about this matchup?
I think this matchup should be favorable for me. I pump out a lot of damage. And if I can get in on the Knights, they're going to fall over very, very quickly. Like Edmona Mortis and his 2 dudes dropping in, rapid ingressing, walking up, shooting Trajan, will do like 5-6 damage. If I charge Canis Rex with these 3 little dudes that rapid ingress in, I should kill Canis on average. That's the level of damage we're talking about. Trajan touches any model in his army, and that model is, seeing its creator.
Yeah.
So that does lend itself to me having something of an advantage there. If he had like 10 Armigers and Canis, that could be a little tougher. But Brian is a smart player and a good player, and so he wants to round his matchups out. Not me. I'm not into that. Here's a point, and I go directly for it. And I think that the fact that he's taking fewer Knights and more support really helps him out into a wider variety of targets, but not necessarily me, because I only have 6 targets I need to kill, and then the game is largely wrapped. Now, he's very good, and he does have screens, so he will keep me off of those targets, but we'll see how long he can do that.
Nice. What about the field overall? How are you feeling about your odds into the field? Anyone particularly you're worried about?
Yeah, so I am particularly worried about, I'd probably say Quinton and Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And then Richard, depending on the terrain. If the terrain is like next round, which is map 8, I'm not worried about Richard. I'll be fine moving up the table. He won't really be able to shoot me that much. I can totally lose that game, but I feel a lot better about it. Quinton and Kyle have the problem that they have shooting and combat, and I can't deal with Volgons at range, at least not well. I could probably force enough saves to force some 2-ups to fail and kill some amount of the Volgons, but they will just delete a unit in shooting and combat every single turn until they are answered. So I have to answer them right away. Kyle's army has nothing but 2-up armor saves and armor of contempt. I can't shoot him to death. Charging him to death is tough. That's not really what I want to do, and he does have a high damage output, so that one's tough. Richard's army has a lot of shooting that's 3 damage and 4 damage and relatively low strength. So what that means is he has a high quantity, a high output of those shots, and that can be really rough for me. Those are probably the matchups that are a little shakier. In terms of the easiest one, obviously that's Eldar, right? Spirit Conclave, whatever. Get out of here. It's basically the buy if you think about it.
Yeah, totally. Don't you worry. I'm coming for you, Jack. Don't you worry. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Jack, and good luck in this tournament. Unless we play, then no luck whatsoever.
Yeah, thank you. Same to you. But if we play, still good luck because you'll need it.
Oh, appreciate it. All right, next up, we've got Sasha Edelkraut on Chaos Space Marine. Sasha, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me today.
Now, you've been on the show before, and usually you talk about playing Space Marines really well. What has spawned your chaotic versions now?
New year, new army. I was ready for some change, and change it was indeed. We are here with CSM.
I love it. What type of CSM you got today?
We are going to be playing with Creations of Bile. I've been really liking Possessed units and Chosen, and Bile's detachment just makes them all the stronger.
Dude, that's going to be an epic match between you and I. Tell me about the army list you're taking in the tournament.
The army list, I think it's something that other people have been testing, playing a little bit before. Chaos Lord with Prime Subjects, Cypher and Fabius Bile are my characters. Battle line, we just have 2 cultist units, 1 to hold the backfield, 1 to be scouting maybe a little bit forward, holding objective, being annoying, move block. 2 units of Legionnaires, 2 Rhinos, 1 big 10-man break of Chosen and a small 5-man. 20 possessed, and a unit of Nemesis Claw to prevent some nasty stratagems on the Elder side. And then to finish it off, we got a Wardog Brigand and a Wardog Stalker, just to have a little bit of melter power, pop some transports. Not too effective into your army, but they can still put some damage on those Wraith Lords.
Definitely. Looks like a pretty beefy buy list, right? 15 chosen, 20 possessed, legionnaires, brigands. What is your plan with this army? What's your overall strategy?
The list is extremely good at holding primary. I think this list can really stage in the center, prevent your opponent from scoring primary. It does pretty well itself at scoring primary. It's not that great at secondary games, so I got to make sure I keep you a little bit more rallied in. And when I reviewed your list, you have a lot of scoring pieces. So I think you're going to be doing better on the secondary game, and I hope I can catch up on the primary, keep you off objectives as long as I can, and maybe even table you.
I hope not. Let's not do that. I don't want to get tabled. So how have you been liking the CSM? Have you been playing them much so far?
I've been playing a couple small tournaments, RTTs, so far undefeated, honestly, with CSM. I've loved their ability to lethal or sustain whenever they need to. The Bile Detachment has great stratagem support, advance and charge. Just makes every unit so much faster and needs to be respected. And then also, honestly, the army is just really beefy. When I started CSM and I looked at the possessed status sheet, I was like, oh yeah, they're going to slaughter everything. And they kill Marines really good. But everything tougher than a T4 3-up armor, they actually struggle a little bit into. And all of a sudden, they seem more like a tanky unit that does damage over time. And so yeah, they can hold the center, they can fight for objectives. And if your opponent ever gives you an opening, they're super fast and can steal your home objective even.
Definitely. And you're undefeated with CSM. I thought you had a learning curve here, but apparently you've already learned all about it. I love that. Talk to me about these Nemesis Claw dudes. They're pretty new. I don't really see many people taking them. What's their purpose?
So their main purpose is they prevent an enemy unit that they're in engagement range with from using stratagems. Just flat out. It's not any extra cost. It's you can use strats. So it really allows you in a melee matchup about all to have 2 big combats. Your enemy can't interrupt. No defensive buffs, no armor of contempt against you, no -1 damage, which is going to be huge. When I was looking, I was like, oh man, a possessed will really suck at trying to kill any of the like Wraith Blades or Wraith Guard. T6, 2-up armor is horrible for them. And then about all, if you can add -1 damage, now this will really change if between Cypher, who's going to make stratagems more expensive, and a Nemesis Claw unit who just flat out says, if I'm in engagement range, you can use it. I hope if I can combi charge you Nemesis Claws and a unit of possessed, I can just pick up a unit and move on.
Yes, it's going to be really exciting. So you and I are playing in the first round. I don't need you to give me all your secret tech strategies here, but what do you think about our matchup dynamic?
I think it's actually one of those games where first turn is pretty important. I feel like 10th edition has been more favorable quite often for going second. I think in our matchup, going first is going to be big because it allows me to stage in the center, or it allows you to like move forward, block me in a little bit. You have super fast, cheap units that can block me pretty well. So I hope that I can get the positional advantage turn 1. And then from there, my game plan is really hold you off primary, trade when I need to, not get too much into a firefight. You definitely have the bigger guns. I have a little bit more range than you do on the Brigands. But once we get within that 24-inch range, all those Wraith Lords and the Wraith Guard, they will really put the pain on my chosen and possessed, and I don't want to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be a really good game. We're actually going to play that one on stream when the Stream RTT happens, so you're going to want to catch that one live. But also, Sasha, talking about the whole field, this is your first time playing the Streamhouse RTT. What are your vibes like, and who are you afraid of?
I am so excited. Afraid of none, and just excited to make friends, see all of you play. I have played most of you before, have a couple wins on my belt against Out of War. So we are not going to change it up. We're going to go 3-0, 4-0 actually, because we're going to need to play 4 rounds, I think, right? We're 10 players.
Yeah, it definitely depends.
So there's 4 rounds. I'm going for the 4-0 here. Listen, we can't break our CSM win streak yet.
That's right. I love it. I love the confidence. Well, Sasha, hopefully you don't have too much luck when we play, but good luck to you nonetheless. And thanks so much for coming on the show.
Same to you. Good luck, Nick, and we'll see you on the table.
Okay, and now for the moment we've all been waiting for, my Aeldari list. I've actually gone for Spirit Conclave in this one. Perhaps I'm crazy not playing the latest and greatest Inari Train or Aspect Toast. All of those things are great. But as my list title implies, all forms of Aeldari are broken. And we're here to prove it. So we've got 2 Spirit Seers. One's got Light of Clarity. That's going to increase the OC of one of my Wraith squads. And another Spirit Seer with Rune of Mist, which will count one of my Wraith units as though it's in cover. It's quite nice. 2 units of Wraith Blades with Ghost Axes and Shields, 2 units of Wraith Guard with them good old Wraith Cannons, 5 Rangers, 3 units of 5 Swooping Hawks, 3 units of 5 Spiders, 3 Warlock Skyrunners, and 3 Wraith Lords, each toting 2 Bright Lances and 2 Flamers. We're definitely busting out the rule of 3 here. I basically have really powerful Wraith units that are +1 to hit and wound when they are near any of my 5 Psychers. And once you kill some of my Psychers, I get to boost up my stats further with another +1 to hit and wound. And since they stack as one of them is a ballistic skill weapon skill increase. So the idea is you get Wraith units hitting on 2s, and they have access to -1 damage and more OC. And then, of course, we're still playing Eldar. We've got 3 units of 5 Spiders and 3 units of 5 Hawks, running around, zipping around, screening, move blocking, scoring points, attacking backfields. You know the good stuff. So it's a really interesting game plan. I can also revive models with Spirit's Ears, which really also lets me affect primary, and secondaries come naturally very, very well with Spiders and Hawks just dancing around the table. I'm really excited about this army because I think it approaches Eldar in a very different way to what most other people are trying. Not that there is anything wrong with that. I think, Ynnari is super strong and Aspect Host is super strong. But I also think Wraith Host is really strong and no one's talking about it. So I'm here to prove it. I think this approaches Aeldari in a way in which you're trying to use durability to actually hold primary, or at least attempt to be durable, which is unique to Eldar and or unique to this build of Eldar, I should say. So I'm excited for this list. As for my round 1 matchup against Mr. Sasha Edelkraut and his Chaos Space Marines, this should be a really good match. So good, in fact, that we're going to put it on stream for you on the Art of War 40K YouTube channel. I really think Possessed and Wraith Blades are a really interesting matchup. Just stats for stats, it's going to be a brawl. I have a lot more fast stuff. Sasha's got some Rhinos that shoot, some Brigands that shoot, and Cypher. He's got some stuff that can skirmish and boxes me. It's not going to be easy to just run around him. But we'll see. Hopefully the Wraith Lords can put the game on their back and carry me to victory. Overall, the whole field, though, it's not going to be easy. I think this is probably the hardest Streamhouse RTT I've ever seen. We got Richard Seagler's Tau. Those Ion Cannons and Riptides are definitely going to rip up my Wraith Guard from across the table. I don't want anything to do with that. And John's Emperor's Children, they're menacing. They're devastating. I don't even think they're that great, but John is just tremendous as a player. So, you've got to be respectful of that fact. Overall, I'm super excited. I never get to play some of these teammates of mine because they live in different parts of the country. So it's really nice for us to all get together and just have a chill, fun weekend, vibes, food, hanging. That's what I'm here for. Folks, we will be back next week with your usual Art of War 40K podcast, in which we go back to interviewing tournament winners, breaking down the list, getting to know them, and of course, going through all of their games for our patrons who we love and cherish. Thank you so much. Don't go anywhere because that show will be coming back. Right now, we're in a very exciting time with Warhammer. New balanced data slates are happening. New rules are coming out. New builds are popping up. Warhammer is healthier than ever, and we want to celebrate with you. So this is going to be a 1-part release episode. We'll be back next week for more. Always don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Support us on Patreon. It gets you access to our Discord server where you can talk to us and follow the Streamhouse RTT live. And as always, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Like what you just listened to? Check out Art of War Down Under and Art of War Unbroken on the competitive 40K network. The Art of War 40K.com.